In looking to build your sales, there's all sorts of principles that make a whole lot of sense. And there's a lot of tools and strategies that are going to help you. I'm going to go out on a limb here, be a little bit bold and say that what I'm about to share with you is the one that underpins them all. In fact, it's not just in sales and marketing that this principle, the 80-20 principle, counts so much. It's in all areas of life and in business. However, in sales, where so much is obvious in terms of results, for you as a sales professional, knowing this principle and utilizing it day to day is going to be a game changer for you. Now, I do tend to throw that word around a lot, a game changer, but when it comes to 80-20, this one absolutely makes sense. So here's what we're talking about, the 80-20 principle, or otherwise known as the Pareto principle. Some smart Italian dude, Alfredo Pareto, I think his name was, developed the understanding that in economics, 80% of the outputs comes from 20% of the inputs. Now, some example that he came up with was that 20% of the people had 80% of the money. And if you take it to nature, he found that 20% of pea pods developed 80% of the peas. You go to a picnic, 20% of the people eat 80% of the sandwiches. It plays out in all sorts of areas. So how does this apply to sales? Well, it's, you can look at this in 1,000 ways, but I'm going to give you three main ones to focus on. The first one is understanding your customers. When it comes to your customers, 20% of your customers give you 80% of your revenue. 20% of your customers give you 80% of your profit. Now, they may not necessarily be the same 20%, so that's some numbers you're going to want to work out. 20% of your customers give you 80% of your headaches, right? It goes on. So what you want to understand is when it comes to your customers, what does your top 20% look like? What are the criteria that make them the best customers to work with? Because when you're looking to develop your client base, obviously they're the ones you want to be spending the most time with. When you're looking to get new customers, you want to get more like that top 20%. So knowing your top 20% of customers. Then we'll look more at you and ask, okay, out of your activities, you spend your day doing a range of things, and 20% of your daily activities give you 80% of your results. So what's the question? The question is, what are the 20% of activities that you do that give you 80% of your results? Now, we all go to work and we do different things at different stages, whether it's sitting down and checking email, whether it's doing a quote for a customer, whether it's researching a customer online, whatever it may be. If you really look at it and you really sit down and analyze your time, all the things I just mentioned, you could argue are productive things for a salesperson to be doing, for sure. If you sit down and look at your time and what you actually do on a daily basis, you'll see very quickly there can be a large amount of waste there. So you want to get very clear on what are your 20% activities that give you 80% of your results with your customers. And the last one I want to highlight for you, which is a little bit similar to the point above. Right, 20% of your lead sources will give you 80% of your results. In my business, I know that when I'm speaking on stage to a qualified audience, I always get results. So therefore, I make sure I spend a lot, my activity, my leads is around speaking. I'm going to make sure those things are in my calendar and booked out. What is it for you? What are your best activities that you can do to generate results? It might be referrals from existing customers. In which case, coming back up to customers, you'll find that 20% of your customers give you 80% of your referrals. So these two go hand in hand. And it might not necessarily be that it's the customers who you do the most work for or that you think you give the best service to. I've seen, for me, it can come back to personality of the customer. Some people are connectors and networkers and they like to refer other people. You want to identify who those customers are, if referrals are important to you, which I'm going to assume they are, and they're the ones you want to nurture. So the three game-changing questions for you when it comes to thinking time, right? Out of this, think about who are my top 20% of customers who I need to be focusing on, and what am I doing to give them more value than they perceive they're paying me, right? How am I creating raving fans out of those 20% customers? Activities. There's lots of things we can do within a day. What are the 20% activities that contribute most to my outputs or to my results that I generate? And how are you scheduling time in your calendar to make those activities not negotiable, to make sure you're doing them day in, day out, or week in, week out? Lastly, and obviously these two are connected, but the lead sources. How are you focusing on the activities or lead sources that give you the best results? Whether it's networking, whether it's speaking, whether it's writing articles, getting published, whether it's spending time with existing customers. What are your top 20%? When you're very clear on those, you want to write them down. You want to have them posted somewhere in your office, in your car, on your bathroom mirror. I don't really care where it is, but something that reminds you that they are the most important things for you to be doing. So there you have it, folks. The 80-20 principle, the underlying game-changing principle that separates the cream from the crap, if you like, without a doubt. It's very easy to be busy and look like we're doing lots of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's certain activities, it's certain customers, it's certain lead sources that give us consistent results. You need to know who they are to be able to create world-class results. Speak soon.